So keep an eye out for Lotto Jumbo conspicuously not helping Tom Dumoulin on stage 18. It's a long one this late in the race, 204 kilometres from Roa in the province of Burgos to Riaza in Segovia. Two third category climbs in the first half of the stage, but it's the Puerta de la Casera that'll provide the chief point of interest. From the summit to the finish line, it's just 13 kilometres, handily placed for a stage-winning move, if not a Vuelta-winning one.
On the lower slopes of the Puerta de la Casera, we have a lone leader, and Cyril Gauthier has attacked the breakaway, and he has got clear for the time being. Got a 20-second advantage over the chase, which is a bit disorganised at the moment, and he's taken his advantage. Gauthier, such an attacking rider, and the kind of man he will always identify these kind of stages as his opportunity. As Darwin Atapuma for BMC just tries to go with him. Atapuma's determined to make the junction. He was the one who first tried to get across, but then he sat up and rejoined the others, and in the meantime Gauthier has been making hay while the sun has shone. 2 minutes 16 the gap from Gauthier past these to the group of jerseys. Now it's Diego Rosa who takes things up. André Zeitz just drops to the back of that group of three domestiques. Dario Cataldo is still there for Fabio Aru, but actually the gradient is reasonably gentle here, and the pace is extremely high. I think there's John Degenkolb still there alongside Tom.
I was about to say that's probably the ride of the day so far. John Degenkolb is a sprinter. You can see the loyalty he has. So I've noticed before he's just pulling some horrific faces for about the last half an hour, but he doesn't want to leave his leader because he knows he's the last guy with him.
And this is the effort to get across to Gauthier. That's Timo Rosen from Lotto Jumbo, who's just taken a bottle and moved on. He's trying to get across. And they're just not working together. There's no cohesion about this chase, and it's all playing into the hands of Gauthier, whose lead is extending, well, about a second per hairpin. The summit of this Category 1 climb, the Puerta de la Casera, comes at 13 kilometres. And then it's all downhill pretty much to the finish in Riaza. And it looks like they're getting to Gauthier, so that gap that says 15 seconds actually looks like that in reality, and I think it's just too far for Gauthier now. He knows that that's a big group full of talent that he's trying to hold off, and it's not going to happen. Jaime Zubeldia, 38-year-old, the oldest man on the race, is the one doing the work at the moment to bring back Gauthier. They haven't got him yet, mind. Could still get away and stay away. It's Jose Rojas and Jaime Zubeldia on these slopes, with Darwin Atapuma there. And there is, that's Jérôme Cousin, the other Europcar rider, trying to get across to his teammate up the road. But it looks like Gauthier's attack, for now, has come to naught.
And we can see now we're already in the kind of the end game situation. It's Diego Rosa riding, so Lando must have been on a bit of a bad day. That's why he kind of volunteered to ride earlier, whereas normally we'd expect him to be in this final position. But it's this is it. Now this is the final. So this does mean that Aru's going to try and do something. If he's using up his teammates and ripping this group to pieces as much as this, then that means something.
Talent going out the back wherever you look. That was Roman Sicard from Europcar dropping off the pace. I think it's Joey Rosskopf. So riders just going straight out the back all the time now. And here's an attack from Aru with some distance to go to the summit. Aru's decided he has no domestiques any longer. His last man has been used up and he's got to go. And for the time being, Dumoulin has not given him an inch. He's stuck to his wheel. What an effort from Dumoulin this is again. But the white jersey and the red jersey, the green jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez, these three then, the 1, 2, 3, not in that order of course, but those are the creme de la creme on the Vuelta, and they've decided to have another scrap. Aru trying to push on again.
Here we have basically the top 10, almost top 8 riders. There's Chavez hanging on the back, there's Maika there, Moreno, we've got Nairo Quintana, Alejandro Valverde. But what's the most impressive, Tom Dumoulin didn't hesitate, and we've seen in the past that acceleration that Aru has, and he's distanced him. As Joaquim Rodriguez can't even hold the wheel. I mean, this is remarkable from Tom Dumoulin to hold on to that acceleration, because normally nobody can.
Well, the men separated by 3 seconds on the Vuelta are separating themselves from the rest. This is pretty much true to form. Aru just trying to do everything he can by setting a furious pace that Dumoulin is, at the moment, everything that Aru is throwing at Dumoulin is just bouncing off him. It's extraordinary. And he's looking so fresh. You would not rule out at this point Dumoulin being able to attack Aru in his own right, because he's just right on his wheel.
I know, you've got Maika now coming across. He's realised that Joaquim Rodriguez and Moreno don't have the legs, Valverde neither, so he's having to close that gap himself. And he's got Nairo Quintana sitting on his wheel, and I think that was Chavez just there as well. There.
Chavez too, so Aru's just got this train of talent right on his wheel now, and Dumoulin is riding thus far to perfection, but there is still, what, 6 kilometres as Aru gets out of the saddle and goes again. Dumoulin just absolutely instantaneous, his response, and Maika settles down on his wheel again with Quintana and Chavez. Those 5 riders are clear, and Moreno is bringing Rodriguez back up to do battle again with Alejandro Valverde. What a selection this is. What another fine battle we're seeing on the Vuelta.
And you can see Dumoulin there was just playing a kind of a very clever game, because he can't show any weakness whatsoever. He has to just go every moment that Aru goes. He can't let him get that gap, because he knows then he'll be left to work on his own. But now we're just left with the leaders. Look at Valverde edging up there. He might go. This is the perfect time for one of the Movistar riders to go, because even if they don't get a gap, it means their teammate behind can sit on and profit from that.
A little bit of respite now as they wonder who's going to go next. There was a little move there. Alejandro Valverde identifies a gap on the left, and he's next to go. Valverde had a terrific day yesterday in the individual time trial, rocketed back up into contention. He sits now in 6th place overall, and he looks over his shoulder, and there's a bit of a gap. Aru is the first to respond, and guess who's straight on his wheel as they sweep up more riders from the breakaway. Valverde goes straight past them, bringing Aru and Dumoulin, and Quintana is on Dumoulin's wheel, so nothing doing there. Valverde comes back, and they're going to do battle again.
You can tell you one of the things as well, although it says 17.9k to finish, in their heads they'll just have 13 kilometers to their finish line, 13 kilometers to go, so that's only 4.8k to the top, because that summit effectively is when the hardest part is finished, and then it's a different race down the descent. But the point is they have to get to the top. Tom Dumoulin has to get to that summit with Aru.
And now it's Rafa Maika who just steps up, lifts himself out of the saddle. That wasn't a full-blown attack, it was just a little effort to see who would come with him. The answer is absolutely everybody. So that is the state of affairs, still with several kilometers to go, as Louis Maika's just nods up the road again. But so far, all the big favourites. Esteban Chavez attacks now. Louis Maika's looks over his shoulder.
That's perfect. That was a perfect move by Chavez. He's just been letting the GC guys fight themselves. They're watching each other. This is a top 3, 4. But Chavez is slightly off in 7th on GC, so they won't jump on him immediately when he goes. So that's a perfect and very clever move from him.
Chavez, the latest to make the move. Battles all over the place. Wherever you look, there's an intriguing battle going on between MTN Quebec's Louis Marquez and Domenico Pozzovivo, who's still there as well in this very elite group, as Alejandro Valverde goes again. The second attack from Valverde. Can he get free this time?
Yeah, and Valverde's the kind of guy who you don't want to let go over the top of the gap, because he's one of the best descenders in the peloton. He really is a skilled kind of maniac. So out of all those guys, I'd say he was the best descender. So he'll know this, and that's why he'll be racing to try and get a gap to the top.
Cyril Lemoine from Cofidis, one of the breakaway riders, just watches as this very elite group of climbers goes past him. And Chavez is on a good day. He's looking very fresh today. What a wheel that would be for Alejandro Valverde if those two can get clear and work together.
And this looks like the front of the race now. Nicolas Roche, who's leading with Jérôme Cousin, 2nd place there. So this is what's happening up there, and he won't want to know what's going on behind, because that's going to ruin his chances if all the GC guns are kind of firing against each other.
Absolutely. Don't tell Nicolas Roche anything, but his gap is only 1 minute and 8 seconds to a furious battle that keeps exploding and then settling down behind him. And that is Jérôme Cousin from Europcar trying to chase him down.
And now you can see this climb's interesting because it's not super hard. You can sit on the wheel. Once you're on the wheel, you do actually get a bit of respite.
All right, so Esteban Chavez with Alejandro Valverde and Mikel Nieve trying to get across, the latest to attack on the slopes of this climb. At least 4 kilometers of climbing still to go before this race begins, a 13-kilometer descent towards the finish line, and the attacks have been following one after the other, and no more attacking a figure on these slopes than Alejandro Valverde. At the moment he leads the group of GC favourites, but he's ripped a little hole so far. Esteban Chavez is with him, Rafa Maika as well. At the front of the race, and something like a minute on up the road, Nicolas Roche on his own with a couple of chasers trying to get across to him. But his gap is diminishing fast as Alejandro Valverde brings these favourites up to the front of the race. I don't know if he's going to get over the top on his own. If he does, he's got a chance. But if he doesn't, well, this lot are going to be contesting a stage win, as Mikel Nieve is the next man to make a move.
And this is playing perfectly into Tom Dumoulin's hands, because Joaquim Rodriguez isn't on a super day, contrary to that earlier attack we saw. Maybe that was a bit of a bluff, or he didn't actually realise that he wasn't as strong as he thought he was, because now he's having to use his teammate, Dani Moreno, to close this down, because otherwise he risks losing his 3rd place to Maika, who's up the road. So you can see this works out perfect for Tom Dumoulin. Although he doesn't have any teammates left, he can profit off the fact that it's all going slightly wrong for Katusha, and they're having to work to close gaps down.
Timo Rosen, one of the breakaway riders. His day is over, and it's been very interesting watching Fabio Aru. There he is in the white jersey with Tom Dumoulin glued to his wheel, and it's interesting to note who he reacts to and who he doesn't. And so far, the only flicker of uncertainty I've noticed is when Alejandro Valverde attacks. He's the one that Aru seems more attentive to than anyone else. Obviously, if Dumoulin were to go, that would be a different thing. But Aru's a little worried about Valverde.
Well, it's simply because he knows if he can get away with Valverde, he knows what a great descender Valverde is, and he's the perfect guy for him to be away with on that descent, because then he can profit off and sit on the wheel and race the GC. So, I mean, I think it's a bit like this. And now you can see Valverde is just setting a pace in the front, so you'd expect Nairo Quintana to go.
A couple of riders coming back from the breakaway. You've got Vorganov, who's a Katusha rider there. That's Moreno, just following the move of Nieve and bringing Rodriguez with him. But they've got another rider. Just there he is, just entering the frame there. Eduard Vorganov has come back. So now Rodriguez has two allies on these slopes. And I wonder, the next rider you'll see being swept up is Timo Rosen. In the yellow, there he is. Now, Timo Rosen is a Dutchman. Tom Dumoulin is a Dutchman. There have been whispers and rumours that there might be some kind of patriotic collaboration here. It happens in cycling from time to time. Be interesting to watch anyway. Let's just mark your card with that one.
I know, look at him. He does look like he's willing to help. He's not kind of done the usual give up from the brake and just put the handbrake on. He's kind of sitting at kind of high tempo, keeps looking behind him. As Aru goes again with Dumoulin just glued to his wheel. It's incredible. He just can't get an inch. And I think it really does look like almost Tom Dumoulin's the strongest guy, probably stronger than Aru at the moment.
Well, if Timo Rosen wanted to help Tom Dumoulin, that's the end of that. He's just gone straight past him. The white jersey with his unshakable red shadow. Numbers 1 and 2 in the Vuelta locked together in this battle so far. Nothing that Aru is doing so far has done the slightest thing to shake off Tom Dumoulin. Dumoulin knows this isn't the end of the Vuelta either. He has more significant tests still to come. And still to come over the course of the final 16 or so kilometres of this race. But so far, he's ridden it to perfection, and it's not for want of trying by Aru. This must be his third attack.
Yeah, I mean, he just keeps accelerating, keeps going, but the climb's not quite hard enough for him. Because it is only 6 or 7%, I say only 6 or 7% average, it means it's going fast enough. They're going about 25, 30 kilometres an hour when the attacks happen, which gives you a slipstream so the riders can actually sit in there and be protected. As Nieve goes again. So, I mean, Nieve is probably next to Aru, the most active rider on this climb.
Cyril Gauthier is just getting swept up. Mikel Nieve makes his move. There's another Team Sky rider, though, further ahead. In fact, he's 1 minute 20 further ahead. So Nicolas Roche, we think, is still leading the race, and he's getting pretty close, actually, to the summit of this climb. And then, from then on, it's all downhill. So races within races, of course, but there is Roche, and he's being joined by Jaime Zubeldia. So those two are clear of the rest for the time being.
This is the perfect situation. There's Rojas there, so Movistar even have another rider further up the road. So they're probably the team with the most riders now. They've got 3 in this group: Nairo Quintana, Alejandro Valverde, and Visconti sitting on the front riding. So, I mean, Valverde, they're going to have to move quick. I mean, they'll probably hear from the front soon that Rojas, the race is over for the stage if Nicolas Roche and Zubeldia make it over the top. But at the same time, if it's only 40 seconds and they play around at the front, and there's a kind of a crazy descent from that group behind, which is going to happen because at the moment it's too big and they're not working together, and that's why Nicolas Roche and Zubeldia are getting a bigger gap. But it's all fairly static at the moment.
So Zubeldia and Roche within the final kilometre of the climb. Of these two, if they get over, well, it's a big ask still to hold off a chase, well, several chases. But of those two, who do you fancy more on the descent?
I'd say Nicolas Roche for sure. I mean, I think they're fairly equally matched in the descent, but I'd say Nicolas Roche has got a better sprint, so he'd be wise just to stick with Zubeldia and use him right into the finish line. As Alejandro Valverde goes again.
He does. It'll be interesting to see. Aru has to react. He's always reacted to the moves from Valverde and to Maika now. So Valverde and Maika have attacked the group of favourites. Aru, once again, with Dumoulin on his wheel. Say the same thing every time, but it's true every time, and it is quite remarkable how Dumoulin has stuck to his wheel. I don't think I've ever seen such attentive riding before in such a precarious position for the red jersey. Just 3 seconds. He's literally measuring it out in grains of tarmac at the moment. Yeah, Aru goes again. He goes past Maika. I wonder if Maika and Valverde can react. Quintana's looking fresh today. He's on another good day, I think. Very, very closely attentive as they sweep past. That's not Nieve, is it?
That is, yeah. That's
well,
it's
we thought he was further up the road, so that's Nieve being swept up by that acceleration, first from Valverde and then the counter reaction from Aru and Dumoulin. Pozzovivo and Joaquin Rodriguez have come across then, so the group swells. It splits up and then it swells back again. Valverde fancies a bit more. He's not done yet. Why not?
No, I mean, yeah, it's interesting to see the way Aru just is. He's not giving up on this. I mean, yet normally kind of it almost seems a little bit futile because everyone's there and he's the one that's making the most energy. So Aru at the moment could be the one that gets caught out at some point because he's doing the most work by far.
And you wonder what the sense of it is, really. I mean, Alejandro Valverde, as things stand, is 3 minutes 15 down in overall to Tom Dumoulin, so 3 minutes 12 back to Fabio Aru. But Aru seems very, very concerned with the danger that he represents.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily the danger. I think it's just the fact that he can use him to toughen up the race. So he's kind of using Valverde as a carrot to hopefully try and tire out Dumoulin. But you see now it just kind of keeps staling again and kind of shutting down. So, I mean, that's almost the entire top 10 there sitting in the race, which goes to show in this kind of stage for 3 weeks, 3-week stage race in the final days, it really is just the strongest guys who are present.
Well, paint a line at the top of the mountain and let's race. Nicholas Roach takes the race over the top of the Category 1 Puerto de la Casera, and it is now downhill, the first part of this descent. And we're very interesting to see as Jose Gonçalves tries to maintain contact to those two, and maybe he can make the junction on the descent. But the first few kilometres are where it's very technical, very dangerous, and where you can come unstuck. After that, it flattens out and moderates itself a little bit more in the final 13 kilometres to the finish in Riaza. So very shortly we'll see this group come over, and as you say, I think that is a group of give or take 10, and it is the top 10, and GC does not lie. Alejandro Valverde quickens the pace once again. Aru on his wheel, Rafa Maika. That's a group of chasers still, the remains of the breakaway just passing through. The group of jerseys have yet to go through. Esteban Chavez just looks to make a little move. They're lining themselves up now for a descent. Chavez takes them through then, and they're all there with Maika's the last man in the group of favourites. 13 kilometres then, all downhill to Riaza. What on earth is going to happen on the descent? The group of favourites now on the descent, and Tom Dumoulin for the first time just leaves Fabio Aru a couple of wheels behind him and takes matters into his own hands on the descent. He's been glued to the wheel of the white jersey all the way up, and now he leads the train of favourites down the descent. They have something over 11 kilometres further to go, down to Riaza, down to the finish line, and if Tom Dumoulin can get there without losing his 3-second advantage over Fabio Aru, that'll be one more mountainous day ticked off before it all flattens out into Madrid and he can hold on to that red jersey. But it's really close, and the tacks all the way on that climb indicated quite how lively the rest of the race is going to be. There are riders all over this group looking to take time on each other. Battles as far as you can see as they pass under 11 kilometres to go.
And this really is Tom Dumoulin stamping his authority in the race. The way he just marked Aru, like he was glued to his wheel that whole way up the climb, and we've never seen Aru not be able to shake anybody like that. It was incredibly impressive. But now what he's done, he's gone to the front and he's now leading the group in the descent, as if to tell everybody, look, I can descend. It's like all this talk of me not being able to, or you think you're going to attack me on that final day, I'll show you just how good I am.
I can climb and I can descend.
Exactly. and often the safest place to be in a group like this is the front rider leading the line. That way you choose your lines, you're not at the kind of the whim of somebody making a mistake. And there he is, there's Nairo Quintana still just off the front, and that's Tom Dumoulin in the red jersey just hunting him down, just keeping him there.
Zubeldia and Roche are flying. The gap is growing. It's 40 seconds now that they have, in theory at least, the two lone leaders. And that last time we saw them, Zubeldia had indeed moved to the front, so they're working well together. Left-handed then. Roche bandaged still from the attritional first week where he fell. But he always looked for his opportunity to get up the road and get a stage win. And he's within breathing distance of a famous victory here. He's won on the Vuelta before, Nicholas Roche, so this is territory. He knows how to deal with it when it comes to it. 7 kilometres then for Zubeldia and Roche. And the gap is growing. Now you can see there is only one chase group, and it is this group, and it's a mixture of breakaway riders and the GC favourites, headed by.
And you can see what's happening there. You can see what's happening. Valverde's they're trying to punch through all the remnants of the breakaway. And you see Tom Dumoulin gets caught up behind riders. So that's what they want to happen. They want to kind of like keep dive bombing through there and hope that Tom Dumoulin or the other riders get caught up behind.
6.5 to go for Roche and Zubeldia. Zubeldia in a break on stage 15 as well, so he's already shown himself. He's having a good year, actually. Very strong this year in the Tour of California. Finished 6th place overall, 7th on a big mountain stage there. It's his 25th Grand Tour. Now, there's just one rider in front of Rafa Majka now, Dumoulin in the red jersey, bringing the white jersey of Aru with him. So it's role reversal. Aru is now sticking to the wheel of Tom Dumoulin in the same way that Dumoulin stuck to Aru's wheel on the way up, but this is down.
Yeah, and Tom Dumoulin's done a good job there, kind of covering all those moves and managed to get through. Because I mean, that's been a lot of chaotic riding, trying to fit through all those riders, and some guys slowing down, sometimes speeding up. And so, I mean, to make it through there, I think he is really just trying to show people here that what he is capable of. And by having that red jersey at the front, that kind of just sets the tone that everyone now, they're kind of realising that this race is sort of over for today. So, and the breakaway looks like it's going to make it to the finish line. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, whether there is like one last go for it.
Now they are clear, the GC favourites of that group of breakaway riders, as the two lone leaders go through 5 kilometres to go. They are the first 2 riders on the road, and they have a gap of, well, I think this is a gap that they can ride out. I think they're going to be contesting the stage win. I'd be surprised if they couldn't now. It's a minute that they've got, Zubeldia and Roach, over this chase group. So this is a battle, interestingly, unless there are riders we haven't seen. There is Jose Gonçalves potentially somewhere in between this group and Roach and Zubeldia. So I don't want to say too early that this might be a battle for 3rd place, but should it come to that, of course there are bonus seconds available for 3rd place. But we think Gonçalves is somewhere in between the two. That Caja Rural rider is Madroza, so he was one of the breakaway riders as well, so it's not him. Gonçalves is still in 3rd place somewhere.
Oh, I see. It's got a little kick on the descent, so we might see one last dash from Aru behind.
Well, that wasn't visualised on the profile for sure. So just a little kicker, just to test the legs when they feel like they've got their descending muscles active. They've got to re-engage the climbing muscles just for one last bit. As a Katusha rider just goes in front of Moreno, just stretching things out a bit. It's either Moreno or Vorganov as Rafa Majka reacts, so it must be Danny Moreno, I would imagine, and Alejandro Valverde gets right on Majka's wheel, so they're just kicking uphill now slightly. And there's Aru reacting once again, and this time Dumoulin has flipped back to his regular position of just tracking Aru, and one might imagine that's where he will stay now in the remaining kilometres.
And now I see, because if Joaquim Rodriguez was good, he'd let everyone else go. Look how strong Tom Dumoulin is. Look at the power of the jump he just went off Aru. He just out-Aru'd Aru. Well,
Dumoulin has gone. He saw a little gap there opening up to Majka and Valverde and Moreno, and Dumoulin's trying to close across it. So Aru was trying very hard to react there. Remember, 3 seconds on a road doesn't look like much, but
the gap, Aru, see, this is what the amount of work Aru did before. He's now paying for that. So this is now it's interesting for Tom Dumoulin go himself. If he's that strong, which I think he is, it's now his opportunity to go, and contrary to what we'd expected, he could put time into Aru,
which would be significant. So this is a really big challenge for Aru now. Dumoulin's done everything to perfection so far, and he's going to get into time trial mode now. You would imagine that everybody will just sit on the big man's wheel, or are they going to work together?
No, I think he must have seen Aru's making it back on, so he stopped. There's no point in wasting the effort if Aru's made it back, which he has.
He's back on. Aru is back on. So we've got the green jersey of Rodriguez, Majka. We've got Quintana there. We've got, I think that's Brambilla, possibly, one of the Ethics Quick-Step riders who makes a little move. I think that's Brambilla attacking there, but he's of no threat overall. Quintana and Valverde, the 2 movie star riders, just taking the matter into their own hands at the front.
And this is kind of neutralised at the front here, because basically the top 8, top 10 riders are all there, so there's no point in this group driving forward because nobody's benefiting from it. They're only going to expose themselves to a counter-attack. So Nicolas Roche and Jaime Zubeldia, who we see at the moment, they seem in a pretty safe position. We don't know where Gonçalves is, if he's close, if he's going to make it back to them, or if he's about to get caught by this group. But now Nairo Quintana is riding for Valverde, but it could be a bit late if they want to try and win the stage.
And Zubeldia with a look between each other, just past under 1 kilometre to go. And now, well, the gap isn't much, so they can't mess around too much here with that chase in full flight, but they're beginning to just slow up.
Jaime Zubeldia definitely should not ride now. He should sit on Nicolas Roche's wheel and call his bluff and make him ride so he can get that extra rest of sitting on his wheel for a bit longer. But I think Nicolas Roche is probably strong enough to lead it out, but it's going to be interesting to see, because we never really see Jaime Zubeldia in this position, so we don't know how fast he is.
Zubeldia more of a GC man, Roach more of a rider with the explosivity, the punch that you would probably back in a finish like this. But do mind the gap as they say, because I'm not sure how far behind that chase group is. They still have some way to go to get to the finish, even though we're in the barriered section, as Nicholas Roach decides that he's going to open up his sprint. Zubeldia reacts, so Roach is going to have to do this the hard way from the front. Zubeldia gritting his teeth, trying to stay with him. The finish line is going. Roach takes the win. Roach wins from Zubeldia, a famous win, his second win on the Vuelta. His last came 2 years ago, and that is Jose Gonçalves significantly for Caja Rural, sweeping up the bonus seconds in third place. So there are no bonus seconds available for the group of favourites here. They will, if there are no splits here, lose nothing, gain nothing against each other, and live to fight another day. Jose Rojas just sprinting with Valverde on his wheel. Valverde opens up a sprint. Chavez goes with him, looking to just open up a gap if he can. Rodriguez very attentive. Dumoulin there as well, just marking Aru. No gaps there. They all roll in together. So, as you were, a fascinating stage, and the race is still fascinatingly poised as the Vuelta enters more decisive stages still to come. But that was not short of drama, and in the end they all lived with each other. But a great day for Nicholas Roach, a fantastic win. He took his advantage, he was in the breakaway all day, he survived the attacks that came from Gautier and others, and then when he knew that they had laid down everything they could, he made his move, took Zubeldia with him and outpowered him on the line. Great win for Roach, and a fascinating battle between Aru, Dumoulin and all the rest.
Fabio, hai provato tutto?
Ma sì, ho provato. Ci sono ancora 3 tappe e proveremo ancora.
Well, the good news for Fabio Aru is that at least Tom Dumoulin didn't half-wheel him all the way to the team bus. And if Aru needed an encouraging example of the power of persistence, he could do worse than Nicholas Roach, who finally got the stage win his efforts on this race have deserved.
Yes!
There's the result. Roach and Zubeldia on the same time, with Jose Gonçalves depriving the leaders' bunch of the chance of a third-place bonus. Although from the way they sprinted, I'm not sure they realised he was there. Alejandro Valverde would have won it had it been available. Aru was 11th and Dumoulin 15th, which is about as far apart as they got all day. Well, a stage win is not what Sky came to this Vuelta looking for, at least it wasn't top of their list, but having lost their leader, they'll be happy to have one. And Nicholas Roach continues to show what a strong late-season rider he is.
Nico, well, you done it. Thank God for that.
Yeah, thanks very much. I still can't believe it. You know, I've been looking for it for a while, and you know, I really tried really hard for it the first week. Didn't work out. Really struggled the second week after the 2 crashes, and today it was just unbelievable. You know, I'm still quite speechless.
It was a very hard-fought stage, though. Just tell us about it, getting into the breakaway and then dealing with Aymar.
It was an extremely difficult stage, actually. Even though the profile was right, and you know that there was 3,000 meters of climbing, and you say, oh, it's got to be hard. But the profile kind of looked like it was a long drag and a long drag down, and honestly, it was a lot harder than I thought. And I was actually, you know, talking back and forth with the car, and they're telling me, you know, Nico, it could happen, it could be your day, stay focused, and Gaba was really good with me behind me, and then once Dario continued on, and they were giving me very precious information about what was going on behind us, and it was great to be able to kind of manage, and you know, never easy to come on a one-on-one sprint. Aymar is someone who has he's very quick on those other situations, and even though I'm on paper a quicker sprinter, he's beaten me before in those one-to-one sprints in San Sebastian and things like that. So you know, I wasn't one until I crossed the line, but the two of us cooperated really well till the finish, and it was also good. The two of us really wanted it, and the only way we could give ourselves a chance was to cooperate those last 20k. When I went, I was like, all right, stay on the wheel, stay on the wheel, stay on the wheel, stay on the wheel. And I looked a bit just to see if the shadow was coming past me, and then it was a relief to cross the line.
Plenty of action among the top 10 today, but no changes within it. And it's been a while on this year's Vuelta since we've been able to say that. And all that means Tom Dumoulin is now just 2 days away from the final stage to Madrid, knowing that his singular task between now and Sunday is to stay no further than 3 seconds behind the wheel of the man who needs to take those seconds off him.
Tom, Aru threw everything at you on that final climb, and you threw everything back.
Yeah, I mean, his first attack was really strong, and I just needed to stay on his wheel. and it wasn't very steep climb, so I knew that if I would stay on his wheel, it was okay. And after his first attack, I knew that I would keep the red jersey because he put everything out on the road there, and I saw that later on his attacks were not as strong anymore, and I even did a little counter attack at 4 kilometers to go, so it was a good day.
They'll try and isolate you, they'll try and tie you down, you'll get the same for the next couple of days, you know that.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be the same every day. So, but yeah, we have a strong team here. We did very well today, I think, and we had a good break in front, and the guys rode like champs, and yeah, it was a really good day.